a former financial advisor from the US, was arrested in early 2023 as part of a homicide investigation by Colombian authorities. 35-year-old John Poulos had lived in the city of Franklin, Wisconsin with his wife and 3 children for years prior to the collapse of his marriage in 2021. When Poulos' wife filed for divorce, he ceased all contact with his kids before abruptly leaving the country altogether in January of 2023. He reportedly traveled to Colombia to meet up with his long-distance girlfriend, whom he'd met on a dating app after the divorce. Poulos and 23-year-old Valentina Tres Palacios, a popular Colombian DJ, rented a short-stay apartment in Bogota, which they were seen entering on January the 20th. 2 days later, Poulos exited the rental property with a blue suitcase, but Tres Palacios was nowhere to be found. Her body was later found inside the suitcase, which the man had discarded in a dumpster near Bogota's El Dorado International Airport. After his girlfriend's remains were recovered, Poulos fled the country, at which point an Interpol alert was issued for him. He was subsequently located and detained at Panama City's International Airport before being transferred to the custody of Colombian officials. His alleged plan had been to fly from Panama to Turkey, then hide out in Istanbul. Prosecutors accused Poulos of fatally strangling Tres Palacios before throwing her remains in the trash. In regards to a potential motive for the crime, the victim's friends told police that Poulos had exhibited jealous and controlling tendencies throughout their months-long relationship. He'd even gone so far as to hire a private investigator to keep tabs on her whereabouts. When asked to comment on the situation, Poulos' estranged wife Ashley revealed that he was abusive during their marriage and had left the family with nothing after transferring their entire marital estate to an offshore trust. Charged with femicide, Poulos faced the possibility of spending up to 50 years behind bars if convicted in Colombian court. Number 5. Gabriel Christian Natale Hyoth and Finnegan Lee Elder. During the summer of 2019, the police in Rome, Italy, received a report from a man who claimed that a pair of teenaged American tourists had stolen his backpack. Officer Mario Cecilio Rega, who had returned to duty only a few days earlier following his honeymoon, was dispatched to investigate the report, which cited 18-year-old Gabriel Christian Natal Hyoth and Finnegan Lee Elder, aged 19, as the alleged thieves. Natal Hyoth and Elder, who were both from the affluent San Francisco suburb of Mill Valley, had been in Rome on holiday when the incident occurred. They claimed to have purchased cocaine from the alleged theft victim, which turned out to be aspirin. In relation, they placed a threatening phone call demanding cash and drugs in exchange for the backpack's return. The teens subsequently arranged a meeting with the drug dealer, but Officer Rega showed up in his place. The resulting encounter quickly turned into a violent struggle, during the course of which Elder fatally stabbed the officer 11 times, while Natal Hyoth repeatedly punched his partner. After fleeing the scene in the aftermath, the teenagers were tracked to a hotel where they were reportedly making arrangements to flee the country. Officers recovered a knife of considerable size that the killers had concealed in one of the hotel room's ceiling panels. Natal Hyoth and Elder were taken into police custody and ultimately tried for murder. Although they were initially sentenced to life in prison for the crime, an Italian appeals court reduced their prison terms to 22 and 24 years. Number 4. Shadid Abdul Mateen. On the night of June the 14th of 2021, a female college student was assaulted and murdered near the Shiji Avenue metro station in Ningbo in China's Zhejiang province. In the early hours of the following morning, local police arrested a man named Shadid Abdul Mateen in connection with the crime. Abdul Mateen had reportedly been a mobile phone salesman in the US before moving to China to teach English at the Ningbo University of Technology. In early 2019, the man met 21-year-old Chen Shijun, a student at the university. Abdul Mateen lied to Chen, telling her he was divorced, and the pair subsequently sparked up a romantic relationship. In May, however, the young woman tried to break things off between them, triggering a verbally intimidating response from Abdul Mateen in which he allegedly threatened her. They continued dating until the following month, when Chen was found dead in a grove of trees. Abdul Mateen confessed to abusing the young woman before fatally stabbing her in the face and neck with a folding knife, citing a relationship dispute as the reason for the brutal attack. Authorities filed an indictment for the crime of intentional homicide against the American expatriate to the Ningbo Intermediate People's Court. Following the ensuing trial, Abdul Mateen was found guilty and consequently sentenced to death. Number 3. Jennifer Erin Talbot. In September of 2019, an American woman was caught trying to smuggle a 6-day-old baby boy out of the Philippines. On the 4th of the month, 43-year-old Jennifer Erin Talbot was intercepted by airline workers at Ninoy Aquino International Airport in Manila while attempting to board a flight to Detroit, Michigan. Although she was able to pass through the airport immigration counter without declaring the newborn, who was hidden inside a sling bag, Talbot's good fortune ran out when she reached the boarding gate. The mother of 5 was unable to produce a passport, boarding pass, or government permits for the child, and she was subsequently arrested by immigration personnel. In official law enforcement documents, Talbot was accused of brokering an illegal adoption with Maricris Dulap, a teenage girl from the Philippines. The pair met online before Talbot flew to Davao to await the child's birth. Following her arrest, Talbot presented authorities with an affidavit allegedly from Dulap giving consent for the baby to travel to the US. However, the baby's mother hadn't provided a signature, nor had the child been granted government travel approval. Talbot was charged with human trafficking, while Dulap and the child's father were also charged under a child protection law. Meanwhile, the newborn was taken into the custody of the Department of Social Welfare. Talbot, originally from Ohio, had reportedly been living in the suburbs of Salt Lake City, Utah, prior to her arrest. Although her sentence hadn't been publicly announced, as of the most recent updates, her criminal charges carry a maximum penalty of life in prison. Number 2. Shazan Kasim. A 29-year-old American expatriate was criminally charged in the UAE after posting a parody video online, mocking the nation's youth culture. According to his family, Shazan Kasim, originally from Woodbury, Minnesota, had moved to Dubai to work for PricewaterhouseCoopers after graduating college in 2006. However, his life abroad turned upside down in October of 2012 when he uploaded a mock documentary filled with biting social commentary. The video reportedly depicted a fictional Satwa combat school referencing the Satwa G, a derisive moniker given to suburban Dubai teens from Al Satwa, who are known to talk tougher than they really were. In the 19-minute clip, the combat school students were taught to throw sandals as weapons and call for backup on social media when under attack. As a consequence, for the sarcastic but harmless video, Kasim was arrested and charged with endangering state security. The man was further accused of violating Article 28 of the new UAE legislation aimed at governing internet usage and mitigating cybercrimes. He was sentenced to a year behind bars plus a fine of $2,700. In June of 2013, Kasim was transferred to Al Watba prison in Abu Dhabi, where he was held along with other unnamed foreigners who participated in the creation of the video. Following his release, he returned to the US in 2014, at which point he publicly directed scathing criticism towards UAE authorities. Kasim condemned the country for trying him in a textbook kangaroo court before convicting him without any evidence. Before we continue, be sure to stay tuned after if you'd like, and if you want to still see our earlier release on when tourist excursions go wrong. Number 1. Heather Mack and Tommy Schaefer. Between January of 2004 and June of 2013, law enforcement in Cook County, Illinois responded to the home belonging to Sheila Von Weissmack in relation to 86 separate domestic incidents involving her and her daughter Heather. They had a contentious relationship fraught with theft and violence, including altercations that left Von Weissmack with broken bones. The mother and daughter were at odds, in part because of Heather's relationship to Tommy Schaefer, an unemployed rapper who went by the stage name Tommy EXX, whom she'd met at Oak Park and River Forest High School. Von Weissmack thoroughly disapproved of Schaefer, so she sold their house and moved with Heather to the Gold Coast Historic District of Chicago. In spite of the increased distance between them, Heather continued seeing Schaefer and eventually became pregnant with his child. Court records indicated that Von Weissmack had forced her daughter to terminate pregnancies on 2 separate occasions in the past. She attempted to obtain a power of attorney over Heather in order to force a 3rd abortion. In August of 2014, while they were still waiting on blood tests to confirm the teen was actually pregnant, the mother and daughter went on a trip to Bali, Indonesia. Unbeknownst to Weissmack, Heather used her credit card to purchase a plane ticket to Bali for Schaefer as well. Although he later claimed to have gone on the trip to hash things out with his girlfriend's mom, Schaefer was seen arguing with her in the lobby of the St. Regis Hotel in Nusa Dua shortly after his arrival. Later that night, the young man allegedly killed Von Weissmack with a metallic blunt object in their hotel room. He and Heather subsequently stuffed the woman's body in a suitcase, which they placed in the trunk of a taxicab outside the hotel. A security guard noticed blood on the suitcase, which led to the discovery of von Weissmach's remains inside. Police caught up with the killers at a nearby motel a short time later. Despite claiming that the victim had actually been killed by a group of robbers, the couple were arrested. Both Heather and Schaefer were charged with premeditated murder, for which they faced a potential punishment of death by firing squad. However, in April of 2015, following criminal proceedings in Indonesian court, Heather was sent to prison for 10 years and Schaefer for 18. During sentencing, the judge admitted to being somewhat lenient because Heather had just recently given birth to the couple's child. Number 10. Unnamed women. In July of 2021, two young women plunged off the top of a 6,300-foot cliff in the Sulak Canyon of Dagestan, Russia. While on a precipice swing set, they had been rocking back and forth for almost a minute, while somebody from the staff of the tourist attraction was pushing them from behind to create more momentum. At some point, as the swing was again going towards the edge, one of the chains holding a seat snapped, launching the women over the steep cliffs. Luckily, they landed on a small wooden platform installed just beyond the edge, which broke their fall and ended up saving their lives. The two women were dragged back to safety by shocked onlookers, and they miraculously suffered no grave injuries. Number 9. Michelle Medder. On June the 20th of 2021, 53-year-old Michelle Medder of Hudson, Ohio, was hiking on the Toronto Trail near Monument Creek in the Grand Canyon National Park as part of a 3-day backpacking trip from Hermit to Bright Angel Trail. She was accompanied by her husband, her 2 adult children, and a friend of the children. As the temperature reached about 115 degrees, she grew disoriented and later became unconscious. In an attempt to get help, the 3 younger adults left the group and ended up hiking for 2 miles downhill to a commercial rafting boat equipped with a satellite phone. The National Park Service received their call about the woman suffering from heat illness at around 1:15 p.m. and sent rangers to help. A few days prior, they'd issued a warning informing tourists that rescue efforts would be delayed during the summer because of limited staff and reduced helicopter flying capability stemming from the extreme heat and the higher number of calls. Unfortunately, by the time they managed to arrive at her location, Medder had already passed away. The rangers believe the cause to have been heat-related, but the woman's death is still under investigation. Number 8. Gayleen McEwen. In July of 2017, a 57-year-old mother of 3 was killed by the blast of a jet engine while visiting the seaside airport of Princess Juliana on Saint Martin in the Caribbean. Gayleen McEwen from New Zealand was on holiday with her husband and friends. They wanted to see Maho Beach, a spot that has become famous over the years for the beachside airplane runway, where tourists can watch jets touch down at just 100 feet above their heads. When they got there, McEwen and her family approached to the fence separating the beach from the runway. Despite the written signs that warned the tourists not to get too close, they were clinging to the fence as a Boeing 737 was taken off. McEwen was desperately trying to hold on to it as the airplane's engine blasted. After only a couple of seconds, she lost her grip and was blown away into the concrete barrier behind her. As she fell, McEwen hit her head, suffering devastating injuries. Paramedics rushed to the scene and desperately struggled to save the woman, after seeing that she hadn't immediately passed away. Unfortunately, according to reports, McEwen succumbed to her injuries shortly afterwards. Number 7. Suzanne Astle. In October of 2016, 48-year-old Suzanne Astle from Kenilworth, England, was on a half-term holiday in South Africa with her husband and their 2 sons. Early in the morning of October the 26th, they embarked on a hot air balloon in Skierpoort along with 10 other tourists. The balloon reportedly took off in good weather conditions, but as it approached the town of Muinui, it was swept away by high winds and soon crashed between 2 trees. According to a paramedic who was at the scene, the basket tilted when it was around 20 feet from the ground, causing Astle and 2 other passengers to be thrown over. The woman suffered grave injuries to her head and was taken to the nearest hospital. She arrived about 4 hours later, along with her husband and 2 sons, who were also injured. Although her family survived, Astle didn't recover and she died later that day. The investigation report found that the pilot was inexperienced and had decided to execute the landing in unsafe conditions. Moreover, the pilot was the only one securely fastened in the basket and had also failed to radio for help after the crash. Number 6. Shaida Hossanzadeh. Elk River Falls in North Carolina is a tourist attraction popular among thrill-seeking travelers. The 50-foot mountain waterfall cascades over a rock cliff and into an oval pool, which is safe for swimming. However, diving from the rock cliff has proven to be deadly on numerous occasions. In August of 2015, 26-year-old Shaida Hossanzadeh, a student at UNC Charlotte, was visiting the falls with her friends and family. She decided to jump from the top of the waterfall and launched herself over the cascade. According to an onlooker who witnessed the scene, she'd come up at first, but was then quickly pulled below the water's surface. People at the scene immediately called the emergency services, and about 54 responders from various agencies arrived at the scene and worked together in an effort to save the young woman. They unfortunately were unsuccessful, as they later found her lifeless body after more than 4 hours of searching the premises. Multiple media outlets reported that Hossanzadeh had jumped into a shallow portion of the pool and could have been injured by hitting an underwater ledge. Number 5. Guatape boat tragedy. On June the 25th of 2017, a 4-story tourist ferry boat with nearly 170 passengers on board sank in Guatape, 28 miles east of Medellin, Colombia. Shortly after the ship began its cruise, passengers reportedly heard a loud explosion near the men's bathroom. The boat began teetering back and forth and started sinking rapidly. Tourists immediately started climbing to upper decks in an attempt to stay above the surface, while other boats and jet skis that were nearby rushed to save as many people as they could. Rescue boats helped 99 people to safety, and 40 others reached the shore themselves. 9 people died in the incident. Many survivors claimed they hadn't been given life vests upon embarking. The cause of the accident has not been made public. However, Marilyn Usmi, a local business owner, reported that there had been a previous incident involving the same boat 3 months prior to the tragedy. The woman told a local radio station that it all happened at night with no passengers on board at the time, and that the boat was fixed and put back into circulation. Number 4. Christy Kafkaloudis. On September the 5th of 2015, 24-year-old Christy Kafkaloudis from Queensland, Australia, was hiking a Norwegian trail up to Trolltunga along with some friends. They reached the popular panoramic rock formation, which translates as Troll Tongue and juts horizontally from the mountain high above Lake Ringadalsvatna. Upon reaching the edge, Kafkaloudis lost her balance and fell to her death 980 feet into a gorge. According to the early reports that followed the accident, it seemed that the young woman was attempting to take a selfie when she fell. However, her mother later made a statement saying Kafkaloudis was not taking a photo. As the spot was especially crowded that day, she'd been waiting out on the rock for other people to pass so that she could rejoin her friends who were walking ahead. Number 3. Andrea Wotton. On August the 8th of 2010, 21-year-old Andrea Wotton from Salisbury, England, was on an expedition with friends in the Swiss Alps. They were on an adventure route known as the Gorges Alpines near the resort of Sassfi, where they were using bridges, seps, steel cables, and a ladder. At one point, they decided to go on a cable ride to cross a ravine. When they got on their 3rd cable on the route, Wotton allegedly decided not to use a safety rope implement. As police spokesman Vincent Favre explained, every zip wire has 2 cables for the harness and another one attached to wheels, meant to help the rider slow down and brake. When Wotton made a choice to only fix 2 hooks to the cable before going down the line, her companions had their reservations. In spite of their concerns, the student launched herself onto the zip line, but upon approaching the other side, she was unable to brake. She violently crashed into a rock face at full speed and died instantly. Today's topic was inspired by Maison June. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Alexander Hellweger. On March the 1st of 2015, 28-year-old Italian man Alexander Hellweger was on vacation in Alaska along with 7 friends. Initially, they'd been transported by a helicopter to the backcountry for heli-skiing and snowboarding. Later, the group's guides took them to Lake George Glacier, north of Anchorage. As they were nearing the head of the glacier and viewing it up close, they decided to gather for a group photo. That's when a large piece of ice began cracking. Some members of the party ran at the sound, but Hellweger didn't manage to escape. The massive fragment eventually broke off and fell onto him, crushing him to death. The troopers weren't able to immediately recover his body due to diminishing light and the danger of more ice breaking. Number 1. Yesenia Morales. On July the 18th of 2021, 25-year-old Yesenia Morales and her boyfriend were on a bridge in Amaga, northern Colombia, preparing for a bungee jump. The staff had fixed on her harness, but was still in the process of attaching her cord when her boyfriend received the leap signal. Morales heard it and mistakenly thought the signal was meant for her. She proceeded to jump from the bridge without the safety cord and fell to her death 150 feet from the viaduct. To put that drop into perspective, it would be like falling from halfway up the Statue of Liberty. Morales' boyfriend rushed to the spot where she'd crashed to try and help her. He was the first one to find her body on the ground and perform CPR, but she was already dead. As doctors later revealed, Morales had suffered a heart attack before reaching the ground. Thanks for watching. Would you rather get arrested in a foreign country or have your bank account info leaked on the dark web? Let us know in the comments section below.